However, also at the beginning of, I guess, maybe even perimenopause, my early 50s, I started developing some pain in my thigh that led down into my leg. And um, I kept thinking, well, I've been a dancer all my life in different ways. Um, I'll have to stretch this out. This will go away. This will go away. This will go away. Well, that journey became over a decade. Um, and through that process, the pain became more acute at times. Um, and I couldn't figure out what was going on with my body. And it was very challenging because I'm the one that was saying, dance is my medicine. Dance is the medicine. And I reached a point, I'm not going to go into all the details because there were like years of stuff that was going on, but I reached a point where I felt that I couldn't dance. I could barely walk. And that was after seeing, I went the whole route, left brain, right brain, from the physical allopathic doctors, surgeons to channelers and you name it, chiropractors and massage therapists. And everything I tried was not working. What I recognized was that what I didn't share in my journey was in my life, I've had four major falls on stairs. So I suspect that those four incidents, those four injuries, impacted my spine. And I think having done Russian ballet and being in turned out position with pelvis and lower back and injury and dancing, la 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 la, my body just said enough. And I didn't want to hear. I mean, I talked about listening earlier. I did not want to listen. I didn't want to believe that this is like, what if I can't dance? Who am I? If I
Exactly.
always, no matter what I
I
did in
hear
my
you.
life, identified as a dancer in my soul, if dancing hurts me, which it was, who am I? So I had a huge meltdown, crisis, identity crisis. Um, I was, Leslie, I was teaching. I didn't want to give up my teaching, my facilitating, or my trainings, because it was my livelihood, it was my bliss, it was my community, it was my everything at that point. Um, I was taking painkillers to show up so I could still be able to walk in that studio, schlepping my bags and equipment and getting up and down from the floor. And, but I was limping. I mean, it was noticeable. um, and everything was just slowly shrinking in my world. It was collapsing. Um, I reached a point where I just said, okay, I surrender. I have to let go. And I gave it all up. And that was about, I can't even remember now, maybe 7 years ago. I gave up Dance Your Way Home. I gave up the move. I gave up DJing. I gave up dancing. I gave up my livelihood, my community, everything. And went into the dark night of my soul because I've always been a creative. No matter what I've done, I always knew what was coming next. There was always like, I always just followed the crumbs. And all of a sudden, I'm in the void. I don't know what to do with myself. And I'm not sleeping because I'm in chronic pain. And amazingly, a friend of mine told me about this osteopath who I didn't want to go to because I'd had a bad experience with one. And I thought, no, I don't want to do this. But she said, you know what? I think you need to see this person who was a student at the time. And I thought, okay, I'll go. But honestly, I've kind of like surrendered, like maybe this is the way, this is my life for the rest of my life. I'm not gonna be able to walk properly or sleep or dance or, um, but I called him my angel because he was like my body whisperer. He figured out which surgeons couldn't figure out. And I mean, I had a hip surgeon tell me that it was my back specialist telling me it was my hip. They didn't know what the hell to do with me.
They didn't want to deal with you.
They couldn't
Usually it's
figure
the
out
other way
what was.
around. They want the
Yeah.
business and they want it to be their department. Yeah. Wow, that's interesting.
So
Yeah.
it was very challenging because I couldn't get any answers. I didn't know what to do. But he felt into my lower back and my pelvis, and what he discovered was it was like a block. I had completely blocked my lower back, which was connected in with my pelvis and my hips, and everything was off. And so it was a bit like a sciatica kind of thing, but it wasn't my sciatic nerve. It was a different place. Um, and when I came to him, it was so cute. Like couldn't even move my foot a millimeter without me going into like, oh my God, it's gonna hurt, it's gonna hurt. I know it's gonna, you know. So he was so gentle and gentle and gentle, and slowly, slowly I started softening and relaxing. And I'm happy to say that I am dancing again and I'm walking again.
Congratulations. Yeah.
Thank you. I still have restrictions. I still could only do so much, but I've come out the other end. And also, I just want to say that in the process of this, of not knowing and not knowing and not knowing what to do with myself, I had a vision, and the vision was a book, and that's how Sugarflex was birthed. I didn't know what it was going to be about, but I followed that vision, which led me to recognizing that I could take the principles and the spiral of Dance Away Home and put it down on paper to help others experience that as a life path, not just as a dance path, but as a life path, that if we could just soften and listen and then follow impulse and connect with others, and if we could follow that process. And I dropped in my own personal stories into that, and then I illustrated, which brought me back to my visual art, and now I'm painting again, and I'm creating all kinds of different things. And so I mean, it's wonderful to be on the other end of it, to come out of that spiral and then coming back in again. So now I'm at another place in my life where I'm back in. I mean, and this is what the spiral is. It's a daily spiral. It's also a yearly spiral. It's a life spiral. Just recognizing that continuity of no matter where we are, it's like, how can we, to the best of our ability, be present and keep tracking and listening and following and meeting others and participating and bringing it as medicine and coming back home, and off we go again. And ultimately, in the epilogue of my book, I talk about holding it all, that it really does come down to how can we hold it all? How can we hold everything that is happening to us? You know, I'm still aware that there's still pain in my body, but guess what? I'm creating and I'm painting, and I'm in loving relationships, and I'm in conflict, and I'm worried about the pandemic, and I am dancing and DJing. And so there's, you know, there's the loss and the gain and the missing and the worry and the joy and the it's all